33 and Gen Z. Woo! Today we're tackling technology and discipleship as our topic for the day. Tell me about your relationship with technology. We're going to process this out loud. What's your relationship with technology? Meaning, like, do you have guidelines or boundaries in place for your life? How do you decide who you follow, who you want, what you watch? How would your roommate, your friends, children, spouse, how would they describe your relationship with technology? So we're going to start with that conversation first. Silence is a spiritual discipline. That in it, right, we close loops in our brain. We think full and complete thoughts. We feel all of our feelings. We think all of the things. We process all the stuff, which is also one of the reasons that so many people avoid silence, because you have to enter into all the things that are going on inside of you. But we also know, like, when you talk about like that, you're like, oh yeah, because why are we scrolling? Why are we doing things to distract ourselves? Is the number one thing. I'm bored. I'm distracted. I don't want to think about these things. I want to an escape.
Spending 4 to 5 hours on these apps daily, just scrolling mindlessly when I could have been with my family or friends or studying or doing something productive. As a young teen going onto the platform, I have been harmed because I felt more depressed when I was on it. I think for teens, this harm is manifesting, especially in the mental realm, because it also is just altering our reality. The most harmful possible thing that you can give to a child, in my opinion, is a device that can quantify their worth through likes and comments. It truly is perpetuating a reality that cannot be attained. What do you do when you live in a world and you expect to attain realities that can never be attained? That just is setting up a generation for failure, when in reality, there is no failure. You're just stuck in a false reality.
I love that, like, we're just screaming at each other. Oh, jeez, okay. Is that close? Yep. Efficiency, okay.
Yes, efficient. Oh my gosh, we did it.
Oh, wait, that worked better than I thought it would. Nice!
Yeah,
Ow! It feels weird to me that, like, all of our announcements for, like, school and stuff, like, clubs and just general, like, hey, you now have to wear, like, medical grade masks is, like, all I found out through Instagram.
yeah. Like, they expect you to have a social media, or they expect all the high school kids to have a social media, and they're like, oh, this is how we reach them.
Yeah.
It's like they're this thing.
You miss out almost. Like, you are missing jokes. Like, people kind of, they look at you really weird when you say that you don't have a certain, like, when I tell people I don't have Twitter, they're like,
Yeah, like, you don't have to, or people are like, oh yeah, give me your Snapchat, and I'm like, actually, I don't use Snapchat, and they're like, why not? They
It's
always
always
ask,
the
why
why
not?
not.
Yeah, they're always like, why not?
Yeah, it's never like
Yeah.
All right.
It's never like,
We'll stop there. But any little takeaways from what was said in that video? Anything that popped out to you?
Just that 54% of students now hang out on social media after the pandemic, and that's a lot.
And I think there is a ministry of offering a different way of being together. And so I was encouraged to watch this video and go, oh, there are kids who are having these aha moments of kind of pulling their face away from this portal that has consumed many of them, to see there's real life out here. And what if Young Life leaders are there waiting and willing to walk with them in real relationships?
Our kids' relationship with technology, the overwhelming message they're hearing all the time is that they're making the wrong decision with their time. So of course, this fear of missing out is coming out. And then we all know, like, this is connected. Their relationship with digital media, mostly social media, is connected to their mental health in so many ways. These are all these little stats, right? That's saying, hey, guess what? Your relationship with technology is like, it impacts our mental health, and it is really consuming for our Gen Z friends. And they know it. And you can, if you watch this whole CBS video, it is only Gen Zers talking about the relationship with social media and digital media. and they can all verbalize it. You heard the girl say like, the most like the worst thing you can do is give to a child something that's going to quantify their value in likes and comments. And you're like, that was profound. She got it like right away. And she even talks about, I was coming of age, trying to like growing through puberty, having body issues because I was watching what I was watching on social media. So I go, but here's the real question. What are we actually doing about it? Everyone knows this. Kids know it. We know it. I think it's really widely known that there's a negative impact. So I think this is a really good entry point to engage our Gen Z students or Gen Z staff to what their knowledge and experience of the digital world is, of what social media, like how they're existing in that space, because they're actually experts in that space. And for me to come in and say, here's what I think you should do, I actually don't know that space as well as they do. It doesn't impact me the same way it impacts them. I'm not so much stuck in that system as they are, as you hear the kids in the video talk about, like, when I'm not on social media, I am left out. I'm left out of jokes. I'm left out of information. I'm left out of social gatherings because of it. Like, that's a real system that they're stuck in. So when we ask them for help of like, can you help us figure out how to engage digital media, social media in a healthy way, it makes it less sound like the grownups coming in and going, yeah, you kids, like, you're on your phones too much and social media is the problem of today. And like, because they can't get rid of it right now. They just can't. So when we invite them in to say, okay, but technology is a gift. It's something we steward. There's a healthy relationship we can have with it. And sure, the Bible doesn't talk about like social media, but the Bible does address issues that we are being impacted by because of social media. So we can give them, they're already self-aware, give our Gen Z friends a time to express how they're feeling, what they want, what they see. And so technology and social media has a role in our life. It will continue to have a role in our life. So this is a great point for us to say, let's invite Gen Z into how to help create discipleship around this aspect, just as we have discipleship around how to treat your body, how to use money, all these different things in this piece of it. And here's what I like to say now is like, ignoring the conversation is absolutely destroying the next generation. We know it's destroying them. And when we don't engage with it or offer any help, we're really saying, hey, you guys figure it out because we don't know and we're not going to talk to you about it. So you go figure it out on your own, which is not what's happening. So I like to say about this, like as an adult, think about driving a car. When I teach someone how to drive a car that's never driven before, I'm the expert. I know way more about driving cars than a 14-year-old knows about driving cars. And so I will tell them everything I've learned step by step because I am the expert in the room. Most difficult part about this and where we are in our discipleship and leadership of kids today is that we are not the experts in the room anymore. We can have some expertise in some silence, in some boundaries, maybe even like how we regulate. When do I feel anxious? When do I feel bad about myself? When do I feel like compulsive? And we have to regulate those things, but that takes like a level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence and trial and error to get to those places. So here's one of my big questions. What if this happened as part of our discipleship? What if we had a leadership meeting, if you have young leaders or campaigners or Bible study around a healthy relationship with our technology? Like I said, the Bible doesn't talk about social media. But what are some of the issues, and this is now your participation, what are some of the issues around social media that the Bible does address? Have scriptures that talk about, the things you should put your mind on, right? Should be true, noble, like all these things that are from the Lord, like where am I inputting things into my brain? We can talk about identity issues. We can talk about idols. We can talk about, we have a lot of passages about money because we know in the Bible, money can be something that's used for the Lord or it can destroy the person that has it.
Right.
The idol piece was the biggest piece too, that we can compare the two. And the Bible talks about a lot, like idolization.
Idolatry is removing God from his rightful place in our life, right? And looking outside of God for something. You go, well, it's not an idol. And you go, but are you listening to it for your value? Are you listening to it for your identity? Are you listening for it to tell you who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do? Are you listening to, for all these different places? that you've replaced God's voice in your life. What are you going to say, Katie?
I think about the Proverbs and how often it talks about what does it look like to lead a life of wisdom and seeking after wisdom versus seeking after folly or not having discernment to test and know that things are good or wise or true, and in a space where misinformation is easy to spread. What does it look like to test and understand and have wisdom in what we're consuming? And then I'm also thinking about Sabbath and the healthy rhythms of like you were talking about at the very start. What does it look like to have seasons and rhythms that support your health rather than it being living like a slave? You're attached to something that requires you to continue to build bricks or output and produce, whether it's posts or likes, and you feel like you can't get off that treadmill.
100%. And I think you touched on something that I think is probably even the bigger picture of all of this. It's the bigger gift is you talked about how do we discern this, right? That act of not just saying like, it's really easy to put good and bad labels on things and boundaries like, or all or nothing things, And the reality is, boundaries are good, right? Like there's a certain time of day that I have to turn my social media off or I won't sleep well at night. Or when I decide to, have silence in certain parts of my day, or our phones are not at the dinner table, different things like that. Those are just nice boundaries. But the bigger, most important thing, right, is going, but how do you discern when you are on? How do you know when something is beneficial to you and when it's removing yourself? You're moving from you, right? Like how many times do you go through and go, man, these accounts make me feel bad about myself. I need to mute them because I'm not, this is actually impacting me. I had to remove a couple of shopping apps from my phone and those accounts from what I follow, because it was like, they're always marketing something else that you need. Right. And that was really impacting me. So that's the greater piece. And I think that gets away too from saying like, this is bad and this is good, to know you're actually creating mature believers who can discern like what is beneficial and what's from the Lord, and understanding too, that like everyone has a different, like, not resilient resistance or different things affect things differently. So here's what I like to close with. This is where we can invite our Gen Zers or young staff or leaders or kids to be with us. We rely on each other. We can help interpret their experience with social media as they talk about it, and from like, here's what I'm experiencing. We actually can help put deeper language to that they're feeling, but maybe not have the words for. We can work together to identify what are the positive aspects and the pitfalls of social media and digital media, just recognizing it is a part of our life. That's the only way we advertise Young Life Club, and our club is on social media. We ask a lot of questions. What do you see? What do you want? What do you think we can do? And help them come up, like really process it on their own, because we're hearing about their experience living in this world, and we're kind of watching from the outside saying, okay, now that I understand this, I think it can help you move through this. And affirm that like social media and digital media has had an impact that we don't understand as fully formed adults. That we look back and go, I actually don't know how this impacts you. I had a 17 magazine when I was 15 years old. So I don't understand it, but if you tell me about your experience, I think we can figure out how to move through this together. But a lot of this starts with me going, and you've done this work, Katie, which is amazing, to go, what are the boundaries in my life? And why are they there? It's not just because social media is bad, but it is like, because silence is a discipline that's supposed to be in our life, that the Lord created that space for us.